Welcome back, YouTube people. Good morning. Hope you're having a wonderful day. This might be the hardest project I have done to date. A massive conference table. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'd always had a dream that one day I too would build a massive table. Today, I'm excited to share the journey of an 8+ foot conference table today. So as you can see, I cut down my pieces. This is for the stretchers, and you can never have too much glue. So I get it nice and lathered and purty and nice and lathered and purty and clamp those suckers right on. Of course, you got to laminate 2 boards because pine's cheap. Why not have more of it? Now, pro tip, when you clamp things together, actually think about what you're doing. Because if you clamp them with the pipe clamp part going up and one going down, all of a sudden you don't have the ability to stand that piece up. It becomes cumbersome and annoying and cumbersome. Did I mention that it's annoying? Anyhow, so here I am making another laminated board using spacer pieces to make sure I have everything together, and yet another laminated board. These are the legs and the top and the bottom of the legs. Always get yourself a piece that you can put through and double check your spacing. And for some of these I use screws, some of these I didn't use screws. I really wasn't thinking through a lot of it, but be aware of your screw placement, because in a moment I'm going to cut up some of this and I'm really close to screws and I didn't even realize it. So just take that with the understanding that you may come through a screw as you cut up these boards. So better to not use screws at all if you can help it. Dowels would have been better. I'm an idiot. That's basically it. And if you've seen any of my other YouTubes, then you probably know that this is an idiot's YouTube channel. But I did get it right this time. Look at that. I put all the clamps with the bars going one direction, just like the band. Bada boom, bada bang. Got all of that glued up. So this is part of the leg stretchers. You know, those pretty farmhouse tables. You got to get that angle just right. So I popped those 45s, I cut them down, and made them look really good. And this was a really good strengthening feature of the table, and all I did was line it up perfectly on the edge because they were already cut to length, and just popped them all out. Just like they did babies back in the old days. By now, all of those other pieces are together and 100%, so I can throw them through the table saw, chop them all off, square them up. And I'm going to be honest, I was winging this whole thing. I actually messed up tremendously in this moment. And so I'm thankful to the client that I was doing this for. They didn't want perfection. They just wanted something big and they wanted it cheap. And I said, I've never done it before, so I'll do it just over cost. And they said, yes, please. So thankfully I had this opportunity. I know a lot of you may not ever get this opportunity, but I would encourage you to reach out to family, to friends. If you ever want to try to build something, that is an awesome way to do so. And there's less stress because it's not a full paying client. You just let them know beforehand, hey, there's going to be errors, there's going to be mistakes. But you get the opportunity to build it, so you gain some head knowledge, some wisdom, and they get a table out of it. And they pay you a little bit for it. And so it's a win-win scenario. This is the moment where I'm pretty sure I was really close to some of these screws. So again, make sure you're aware of your screw locations. But I really wanted to make sure everything was together, that it was cohesive, that it looked nice. I even brought out that hand plane you saw a little bit ago, and honestly, that was dumb. I really messed up on these legs, and it will come to bite me in the butt in the near future. But one of the ways I was trying to save it is use this little thing that's a handsaw, and as you can see, man, I went at it. Look how fast I'm going. They call me Speedy Gonzalez for a reason. And it's not the reason you get out of my comments. So just like any good woodworker, I cover these knot holes with CA glue. For a long time, I really didn't use CA glue, and like some of you, maybe you saw some guy do it on the YouTube and you tried it and you're like, wow, that is awesome. So I recently got Starbond 3-pack. It has been amazing. I highly recommend the Starbond 3-pack. I've constantly reached for all three depending on the need. Like instances like this, the thick application is really helpful. It doesn't just seep right through immediately, so I highly recommend doing that. This was the most butthole puckering part of the entire build. I took 10-foot long pieces of pine, 2x8s, and I put them through my table saw. Yeah. Made sure to change my pants after doing this one. That board is hanging off very far off the edge there, and I have to push it through. And there was a small, very small, but possible outcome where my finger could have slipped because the board snapped up and all of that, but it didn't. I praise the Lord for that. And this is the end result. I glued it all up. I made sure everything was together, marked it all out, getting ready for the assembly. But man, I'm telling you, cutting up 2x8s, 10 foot long on a little bitty job site saw, I don't recommend. Unless you want to do a change of pants. Then, if that's the case, by all means. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I watch way too much YouTube. Like, an absorbent amount. And yet I still messed up this table so many ways and so many times. The beautiful thing about woodworking is you get to not only build something, but you get to cover up your mistakes. So I highly recommend, don't let anything bring you back or down or keep you from going out and building something. Just build it. Just do it. This pine table only cost me like $200 to build. So if you're looking for a new dining room table, build it out of pine and do it. And if you mess up, you mess up. It's like $200. And if you don't have $200, then save up. Like, it's possible to do things if you wait the right amount of time and you're dedicated to actually doing those things. So for instance, this table I did not build for a long time because I needed this dowel jig. So that being said, I saved up, I bought this super nice dowel jig, and then I was able to build this awesome table. And I'm really proud of it, and I'm so grateful that I was able to make this and fulfill this dream of mine. You can do it too. Once I got all of the dowel holes drilled, it's a very simple process of throwing in a dowel, throwing in some glue, nailing that in, and then gluing it all up. Glue one side, glue the other side, and then shove those two sides together. But dowels will only help to align the project. I did not use the dowels for reinforcement. I would encourage you to look up other YouTube videos because wood glue is insanely strong. And so I was not worried about the strength. I bought some clamps specifically for this project, and Bob's your uncle. It lined up pretty well. I'm really thankful again for something like this. Dowels, even biscuits, if you want to go for a little bit of a cheaper route, great option for alignment and getting things correct. When doing big glue ups like this, make sure you have all of your items near. Worst thing you can do is start a big glue up and not know where your clamps are or where your fancy little spreader is that you're going to lose in a week. Worst thing ever. So make sure you get your clamps, put them all around you, and then do the glue up. Don't ask me how I know. And it was at this moment that I realized I don't have enough clamps. Well, anyway, so I clamped it all up. I did it. You know, there is an argument that, oh, you can never have too many clamps, yada, yada, yada. So far, I've had this table built now for, I think 6 months. Had no issue with separation or anything like that. So I'm not super worried about it. I mean, the clamps that I did use really made sure everything went together. And look at that alignment. I mean, it's not perfect, but that's pretty cool. You know, when you see a piece that you've been working on, that you've been hounding and putting your heart and your soul in, and all of a sudden you squeeze it together and the lines just almost perfectly match up. You know, if I had the extra money and I bought a domino, they'd probably match out perfectly, but that's neither here nor there. But a cool thing about this specific dowel jig that I have, it came from Canada. Not the Dowel Max. It is the Jessam dowel jig. It is awesome. I highly recommend it. It is well worth every penny. And I got the cheapest one that they had. And man, look at the abilities that it has. Almost perfectly lined seams. And I don't even need perfectly lined seams. I'm actually going to cut off some of this at the end. So, perfect. Highly recommend. Now we're back to the legs. Going to square up the ends. And then make sure they are the correct distance apart. That is crucial. I wanted to make sure my legs looked nice. And I want them to be at a specific, I think I was 30 inches. Do that for the top leg part. It's basically going to create an I-beam. Make sure I cut off perfectly square edges. And then also the middle part of the eye. Not the top or the bottom, but like the middle. What is that called? Does anybody know? I don't even know how you would describe an eye. It's like the middle portion, not the top or the bottom. Anyhow, Get all those done. Do a quick sanding with this beautiful shot. I know this is everybody's favorite part of it. Why do you complain? Just do it, man. Anyway, I'll get off of that for now. This is what it's going to look like. Find the center point of it on both sides, on both pieces, and then I'm going to dowel them all together. And again, I'm telling you, this dowel jig made this possible. So for me, that was crucial. So I highly recommend any dowel jig you get, but the Jessam one is awesome. And I watched some YouTuber, I mean, most of them will talk about it, but if you actually put your pencil down and bring your square to it, it's really helpful. And this is where that Jessam really comes in, because you can perfectly line up every single thing and get awesome results. Had I had perfectly square pieces of wood, this would have come out flawlessly. Because I messed up. It wasn't the jig, but I messed up, and that's where my problems ensued. So again, if you're in the market for a dowel jig, this Jessam, this little bitty guy, it's stainless steel. I think they even have a broken and dinged section that you might be able to find some on. Get it. It is awesome. The only complaint I have with it is it doesn't come with a drill bit. You have to buy the drill bit separately from it, which is really annoying because you can't use the jig without a drill bit. So Jessam, I doubt you'll even watch this, but just put the drill bit in there. Goodness. A surefire way to make sure your dowels are in there is slam them on the ground. And check this out. Look at this fit right here. You ready? Boom. Ain't that nice? Oh. Part 2. Look at that. Beautiful. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually put 6 dowels in each part, and then get ready for the next part, because that made a lot of sense. Idiot. So now the hardest part of this entire thing. Why do I keep saying part? This section of the build was insanely difficult because it was such a wide glue up. I had a hard time doing it. And I think if I was to go back and do it again, I would actually add a couple of pocket screws so that my clamp isn't as important. Like, it's still important, but if you do dowels and then pocket hole screws in addition to that, I think that would have been really helpful. Of course, I got some pipe clamps literally just for this project, and then I'm going to do the double up scenario as well to make sure I get that done. But this was a terribly long build. I don't know if you've ever had to do a project like this. I mean, I work full-time in addition to this, so this took me forever. I think I ended up working on it for 3 weeks before it was all complete. You know, you glue something up, and that took you all day, so you're not able to come back to it for, 2 or 3 days. It allows the glue to actually settle up. So just because a project takes you a long time doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's okay with taking a little bit of time. Look at that butt. Wait, what? Excuse me. So, get that clamped up and move back to the legs. So here I mark out where the legs actually touch, and then give me a center point. That center point allows me to put the jig on there. And again, the uses of this Jessam jig are endless. So then you add it onto the angled piece, drill 2 holes, and I actually drilled 3 holes for the first one. I didn't need them. I ended up doing 2 for all the other ones because it saved me a little bit of time. Now do the same thing for the leg brace. Once this gets drilled together, bada boom, bada bang, I got these little fancy farmhouse looking angled pieces. And you know these ladies go crazy for the farmhouse style. Wait, farmhouse? It's out of style now? Ah, crap. Well, good luck. Oh, so farmhouse style is now called modern farmhouse style. That makes no sense. Who comes up with these ideas? I mean, seriously. Okay, so what is modern farmhouse style? Is it like 2 X's instead of 1 X? No? Okay, well, does it like, do anything different? No? So, you're telling me the only difference between farmhouse and modern farmhouse is the 2-tone color? Holy crap. Leave it to Americans. Anyhow, the best way to install this is to install those X braces first and then come back and push it into the top and bottom portions of the eye. And man, I mean, it doesn't look like it, but this took a lot of fudging. It took a lot of maneuvering. That mallet was very much used, and so once I got that all fit together, make sure it works, I wanted to add a little accent so it's not so blocky, where it's actually a little more angular. It kind of points your eye to these X's. Ironically, you really don't even see this except for on the bottom, so I really didn't need to do it for the top, but I did it anyway. Just set it at a 45-degree bevel. Do they make single bevel miter saws anymore? I don't even know. Anyway, always get a dual bevel if you have the opportunity because it makes your life so much easier. But now, the second most stressful glue up, the legs. You only have so much time before Type Bond 1 sets, and if I was thinking, I would have used Type Bond 2 or Type Bond 3 to give me that extra setting time, but I wasn't thinking, so I didn't. That being said, it's not a bad idea to use Type Bond 1 because it does set faster. It's also cheaper, ironically, or unironically, depending on how you look at it. But what I should have done is set all these dowels and got it all ready, and in my head figured out this glue up. This is where having your clamps ready before your glue up and having, things like dowels ready and done, because I could have done half the dowel work before I did anything else. And the other thing is making sure that you label everything, and then you take that labeled item and you put it on the item that it's labeled correctly with. Hi, family. So once you get all of that done, you can put it all together, and it was storming. You can't really see it because this is sped up and I don't have the noise, but it was coming down. You can kind of see some of the flashing of lightning, and it's actually an enjoyable experience building this table with the rain pouring down, thunder just like cascading. I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you're just at work, you praise God because you have a roof over your head and you can still work even though it's crazy outside. Well, if you haven't ever done that and you've never worked in your shop, and just open the door every now and again, let nature in. I live in Texas, and so it gets pretty hot, but I don't have a good AC unit, so my garage door is open all the time. So on days like this, I'm really thankful. On days in the summer, not so thankful. But getting back to this glue up, throw as many clamps as I can on it. The big thing was that middle section. As long as that middle section holds, the X is really just mostly for looks. I'm not worried about it being pretty. I'm not worried about it being functional as much. I'm not worried about that holding it. Now it does, because triangles are apparently the best thing ever. But yeah, this thing is awesome. And so glued up the other one, and look at that. Look at that big, strong man. You know, that's right, boys. You wish you were as good as me. So we got some work to do. I had to sand that table down as flat as possible, and I got some gaps. Unfortunately, my table saw was not good at keeping these two pieces perfectly flat, so I got some cracks to fill, and we're gonna hop right on that next. First, we got to clear out all these voids. Really, I hired Cam from Blacktail Studio to come out and do this work for me because I had no idea what I was doing. I'm just kidding. He doesn't even know who I am. But I did kind of watch his YouTube. I haven't invested in his epoxy course. I probably should, but I haven't yet. But if you don't know, the easiest way to fill voids is sawdust and glue. Sawdust and wood glue. It works tremendously well, and if you do it correctly, none can defend. And of course, throwing some CA glue. This is that thick stuff that I used before. If you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend get you some thick CA glue for big voids like this. It is awesome. And if you want to get really crazy, you can do the sawdust in this as well to give it a little better of a mixture. Or you could even add a dye to it to give it a darker tone so it looks better. That's what I wish I had done, is added some dye to it, or maybe done some quickset epoxy rather than this. I think you could even get dark CA glue. Those are all better, and there's a million different ways to skin a cat. So, you know, first thing you got to do is grab your knife. Anyhow, sand all of that down. Sanding was not a terribly long system for this, but it wasn't fast either. And of course, I made a massive mistake, and I drilled the dowel holes on the wrong side for every single board. So I had to fix those, and just grabbed a piece of wood and shoved it in there, put the glue on it, threw some sawdust on it. Boom. Fixed the mistake. The beauty of wood is that typically it can be filled. Wait. I think I said that right. Hey, look. There's my name. Definitely got to get those corners perfectly squared off, but you also don't want them cutting people. So I sand them down quickly with just a hand sander. And then I clean up these legs. And that was not fun. I should have done that tape trick where you put tape where your glue is going to squeeze out on, and then you just remove the tape later. It's awesome. I was too lazy, and I reaped the consequences. Of course, these were got a little glue in the place where the cross beam is going to go, so I attempted to clean that out. Didn't work too good, but I also like this look of the feet or the legs raised off of the floor a little bit. It also allows less contact points to the ground, so that way you actually have a more level table. So I milled these up super sketchily, and then I just screwed them on there. Put a 45 degree chamfer all the way around with my router, and they actually looked really good. This is one of those things where I thought, I'm going to be a cool person, I'm going to do it, and I'm really glad that I did, because I think it just adds so much to how the table looks and how it's lifted off. It's so beneficial, and I'm really thankful that I did it. Another trick, make sure you do your corners first when routing, whatever you want to call it. Do your corners first so you avoid some of that blowout, and then shove the wood in whenever you can. Wait, dang it, every single time. Hey, bud. It's not going in. Yep. Take it out. You're gonna have to try something else. What to do? Well, I'll do the top first. I'll come back to it later. But how could I fix this spot that it just won't fit? In order to make this table completely disassemblable, able to be disassembled, I only screwed these in. Now, if you want to make it to where the base never comes apart, you could totally do that. But I did want this to have the ability to be taken apart and transported easily. It's going to a place where it may not stay in the room that it's in for its entire life. So being able to take it apart, move it, and reassemble it was crucial. And so that's why I built it this way. I've got it. I will use gravity. Gravity will allow me to shove this thing in. That's it. What the heck? Not even gravity works? Let's try the other side. Oh, okay. Maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Oh, okay. The other way. Stinking pine piece of junk didn't even make this thing square. Goodness, what am I gonna do? I'm reaching my deadline. What am I gonna do? Curl up in a ball and cry? No, you're a man and you can figure out a solution. Let's just sand it. Never thought about that before. Just sanding it and removing some material once, twice, 3 times. Marking so I know, how much to do. Let's see what happens now. Oh my gosh! Like a glove! Wow. In all seriousness though, it took me forever to even think about that. And simply sanding both sides of it with 120 3 times. That's all I did. And that was plenty of... I actually may have removed too much material. But it's crazy. Just sand it down a little bit and see if it fits. And, it worked for me. I'm sure it would work for you in certain things. So if you take nothing else out of this video, that's a great thing. I also didn't actually secure those pieces. So theoretically, they can wiggle themselves out. It allows a little bit for wood movement, I think. I could just be telling myself that because I'm lazy and I didn't want to have to plug some screws. But again, I also wanted this to be able to come apart, and I'm not good enough with the wedge system. And so, yeah, I just left it. And so far, I haven't noticed. I'll check it later, I guess. But I see this table every day. And so it's at my job. And so far, I've had no issues. And man, that thing looks stinking good. Like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I've never done this. And I'm really proud of all of the ways that this came together. I really am. This base to this table, while there's a ton of mistakes, and a lot of you are probably like, oh, what a beginner woodworker. You should have done this and this and that and this. I mean, all I have is a table saw, a chop saw. I borrowed a friend of mine's planer, and that was it. And that's kind of where I was when I started this project. And to be able to take just simple equipment and be able to build this table, I really do think you need a table saw to be able to get more crisp lines. And a router, I did use a router. I used the drill, you know, things of that nature. But I'm talking about the big saws, right? I only had 2. And I built it. So you take those 2 things into account. A table saw and a chop saw and then a drill driver combo. In today's world, I think you might be able to get all of those things for less than $600. And of course the router, you know, that's a nice thing. But you can get a table saw and a chop saw. I mean, I bought my chop saw for $130. I bought my table saw for $300. Both of them I waited until they went on sale. And then you get a drill driver combo. And you could build a table like this. It's amazing. Just do it. Just do it. That's the thing that I needed. I just needed to go out and I needed to do it. It also helps if you have a paying client that will pay for the material so you can learn how to do it. But anyhow, you know what time it is? Sorry, any of you over 40, you may have PTSD from that sound. But we're going to throw some finish on this guy. Watco Danish oil is what I'm doing. I did the bottom first just to see, make sure it looked good. Always start with the bottom if you can. This comment section is going to kill me. Make sure your finish looks good by doing the side that people won't look out as much. By the way, I did finish everything to 120 except for the top of the table. I went ahead and took all that all the way to 320. And I even did a grain pop on it so that way it really was a smooth finish. And I'm really glad I did. It is still 6 months later a great soft satin finish on it with just this Watco Danish oil. I'm thoroughly surprised. Now, granted, this pine did not take it as well as I was hoping it would, but it is holding up really well. Now, it's interior. It's not an exterior table, and I didn't do any poly or anything on top of it. I just did this oil finish, and I just got to be careful about moisture getting on there, but other than that, I mean, it's great. So get that top stained, and we're almost ready to send it to its owner. And if any of you are wanting to start up on, let's say, a YouTube channel or anything like that, just so you're aware, I edit these videos on my work computer, which is a laptop that I can take home and work on at home. And I film it all on an iPhone 14. Not the Pro, just a regular 14. So if you're thinking about starting up, you're like, I don't have all that fancy equipment. You don't need the fancy equipment. Just record it, put it on YouTube. And hey, who knows? Maybe you can get 7 people to watch it like I do. Also, never try to fix a mess up with this Danish oil. Don't recommend. It did not come out as good as I was hoping it would. And I am kind of mad at myself for even trying to fix it after I saw the end result. It almost looked worse whenever I tried to fix it. The oil kind of stained on top of it, and it just didn't look great. So I don't recommend trying to fix it unless you just want to sand the whole piece down. But I put some of these fancy figure 8 fasteners on here so that wood movement can be allowed. Like I said, I live in Texas, so wood movement is a big concern, but I'd rather be accountable for it. That way it doesn't crack at its new owner spot. And then I gotta build a new table. Not a fan. All in all, this thing was not an expensive table. It really wasn't, guys. I mean, all in all, I think I spent maybe $300, $350. I'm sorry, I don't have the actual statistics. I'm not that good at my job. I should say my part-time job. My real job, I would argue that I'm decent at. But this job, I'm not super great at. But it's really not that expensive to buy some pine, cut it all down, glue it together, and get an awesome product. So here it is. Hope you enjoyed. See you on the next one.